This episode is proudly supported by Pepe Sayer Australian Cultured Butter.
At Pepe Sayer, we focus on quality. So if someone comes into your restaurant and they see you're using Pepe Sayer, they know immediately that that is a quality product you've got in front of you on the table. And that comes from a decade of just doing quality butter day after day.
For more information, go to pepesayer.com.au.
When you do produce great Italian food, there's so many layers, of structured flavour, which is very, very important. And that is what we want to bring to the table.
This is the Deep in the Weeds podcast. I'm Anthony Huckstep. Last time we caught up with Danny Russo, we went on a journey of his career and delved into a lot of talk about pork on our sibling podcast, The Crackling. But today we're talking seafood, as Danny has some huge news about an iconic location in Sydney. Danny, how are you?
Oh, good afternoon, Anthony. How are you? Good.
It's good to get you on the show again. You've got some news. You've teamed up with Condi's and in an iconic site in Sydney. Tell us a bit about it.
Well, yes, mate. We've been talking about this now for a number of years, and the beauty about it is that, number one, it is an iconic site down at Jones Bay Wharf, and it used to be the old premise of Flying Fish, which has been around now for 20-odd years, which is unbelievable, unheard of in Sydney. There's not many restaurants, so you've got to tip your hat, and this is basically paying homage to Flying Fish, because Flying Fish has now moved out into the Star City in the casino, and we're actually going to be doing an Italian seafood restaurant, Italian-inspired seafood restaurant, using all the best local produce where possible.
You mentioned that you and Con have been talking about doing something for quite some time, but you have kind of worked together on projects, you consulting and stuff. Tell us a bit about the relationship and what you guys have done before.
Well, we've done a lot of venues together. We did the Italian Kitchen together, and we've done a lot of clubs and pubs in that domain, which is fantastic, and working on some very big projects at the moment. And the beauty about it is that, when all the stars align, we tried to do this before, and I was doing a lot of travelling, so it was always something that was always a miss. But this time round, there's just everything just aligned, and we said, listen, let's just do this. Otherwise, we're never going to do this. And it's just, when sometimes when you force things don't happen. Everything was just falling into place, and it was just great. I mean, the beauty about all of this was that I was actually going to do an Italian seafood place over in Chicago in the US. And obviously with the pandemic, it obviously didn't eventuate before the troubles. And the beauty about it was, we started talking, and we said, okay, well, how about if we do it here? And one thing led to another, and Con and I have been friends now for some time, when we had hair on our head. So that's going back quite a few years ago. So it and it just works, when you do business with someone already, you understand the philosophies are exactly the same. And to us, we need to be true to the concept, and the concept is, producing great Italian food using all the local produce. In Australia, has some of the best local produce, not just in the fruit and vegetable department, but also in the seafood. Our seafood is on another level. And I can say that because I've travelled the world and worked, in lots of parts around the world. But Australia, besides calling it home, there's a huge amount of respect for the way that we handle, our produce and the suppliers that we have, and the quality of the restaurants that we have in this country. Like I've said before, they're up there with the best. So.
Italy, depending on where you are, the food is so different from region to region. Tell us a bit about what to expect from Sala in regards to seafood and Italian food.
Well, Sala is going to be obviously, we're going to be doing all the food from up north and down south. And the beauty about it is that the technique and the spirit will always be Italian. One of the things that's very important is that we will be increasing the pantry list. which doesn't mean that we bring in Asia into our pantry list, because that's a far cry. But you need to understand that, we're going back to, like one of the dishes we will be doing is the toothfish puttanesca. When you go back through the history, you need to understand that the garum was introduced by when they do all the curing and the salting of the anchovies and all the fish, and that comes back to the Middle Eastern. So people need to understand, and then there's a lot of the Greek influence as well. So when you go back to it and go through the history, that's where a lot of the inspiration comes from, because don't forget, on the 17th of September in Sicily, they celebrate the festival of the couscous. Now, you're talking thousands of years of history, but that's also the influence of the Arabs, which is very important. So that we can understand, but there will be no soy, in other words, in my cooking. So, just reinventing some of the classics and having a lot of fun. But most important is that we stay true to the dish, because I don't want to destroy thousands of years of cuisine with an ingredient or a cooking technique that doesn't belong there.
You made your mark on the culinary landscape, quite a while ago, and there was a couple of dishes that really sort of epitomised sort of what you were doing. Are we going to see any sort of classic seafood Danny Russo dishes?
Look, the one dish that started the conversation with Con and I is the squidding tortellini. And as you know, it's been one of my signature dishes, and Con has always spoken about it. He goes, mate, one day you've got to do that dish for me. I said, well, let's do it together. And so this is how it all started. So definitely that's going to be happening. And we're also playing with a lot of other dishes. That's definitely one. Having a lot of fun with caviar and just reworking a lot of the classic dishes, but most important is also having fun along the way and, experimenting on the flavours, just really doing something a little bit different. And just, because I've been spending quite a bit of time up north of Italy, you get to see some of the things that they've been doing, which has been really interesting, especially with the caviar.
You've got head chef Michael Lewis on board. Tell us about what he's been up to and the connection there.
Well, the connection there is very simple. So Michael and I have known each other for some time because of EJ, Eliza Holland, down in Melbourne. And the beauty, and several good mates, and we did a project together both in Singapore and in China. And, when your philosophies are exactly the same and you just get along really well with the palate, it's amazing that food brings the whole world together. It doesn't matter, what religion, race. It just brings everybody together, and that's really important. And because of all of that, and now Michael, who's a local boy, he's actually over in Italy and working at one of the top restaurants over there. He's just producing absolutely amazing food. And I just said off the cuff one day, I said, hey, mate, you want to come back home? I might be doing a restaurant. He goes, you're so bloody mad. He goes, I'm going to join you. It'll be a great journey. So, and we've been spending a lot of time, obviously doing FaceTime, working on the recipes, working on the dishes, coming up with the menus together, and which is fantastic because technically is absolutely amazing, and the flavour combinations are just, it's almost like an old married couple. We know exactly what's going to be happening, what's going on, and the beauty about it is that he's going to be coming into a place where literally the hospitality environment is one for the professionals, where you just really need to be positive, understanding and knowing about flavour combinations, but more importantly is also having the right attitude towards the culture of a kitchen brigade. And that's the one thing which is extremely important today.
Conditi's influence is pretty incredible in Sydney, but most people don't know who he is. He sort of shies away from the limelight. Do you have any stories of what it's like working with him on projects?
Oh, mate, look. Mate, you don't even have to pay me for this. Look, the beauty about Con is that everyone understands and knows that he's regarded as the gentleman of the industry, because he really and truly is. That's number one. And he's got a fantastic wife, Kerry, who she does all makes him look very good. So we'll put it that way. But he's an absolute gentleman, but it's also his insight into the hospitality, especially when it comes to front of house, is absolutely second to none. And his commitment to the industry and the way he treats, with the culture, with his staff is absolutely amazing. He's had staff with him now for quite some time. There's not that many people that leave, and the ones that do leave, they end up coming back because they really and truly enjoy working with the group. And that's something that we need to really cultivate, which is very important because you don't get many hospitality groups that can do that.
Italian cuisine has had a huge impact on Australian food over many, many decades. But there's been a real renaissance, particularly with the regional Italian and restaurants and this beautiful movement that's happening. Well, what are you hoping to bring to the table with Sala and that sort of boom that's happening with Italian food in Australia again?
Well, look, like I was saying before, one of the best parts is that Australia does produce some of the best Italian food. And I say that without any hesitation. And one of the things that I found is that the hole in the market was that there was actually no one that was really and truly concentrating on specialising in doing, fantastic seafood with the Italian influence. People have sort of, they come in and they're sort of like on the borderline. But no one has really, 3/4 of the menu will be seafood, and that's going to be the best part with an Italian influence to it. And I need people to feel comfortable. When you read the menu, you don't need a PhD. You're going to understand. Well, this is the whole thing. I mean, one of the things with Italian food is the simplicity in the way it's written, the way it's all put together. But the most important part about that is that simplicity is a concentration of flavours because there's no masking agent. And that's the most important part people need to understand, is that when you do produce great Italian food, there's so many layers, of structured flavour, which is very, very important. And that is what we want to bring to the table. If we want to get the tuna or the swordfish, or whether it's, the flounder, whatever we do, there's got to be a story behind it. We've got to make sure that we know where it's come from. We need to understand who is actually bringing that to the table, And these are the things that are very important because then you can taste it in the food. That's what it comes down to. We're talking to the producers at the moment about our lettuce. We want to have a certain type of lettuce. All these things, I can talk to them. Why? Because I've actually been down to the farm. I know who the guy is. I know the greenkeepers. We actually know the bloody dog, and this is the detail as to what you need to go down to because, you actually then become a natural salesperson and not that when you start talking about the food, people should almost feel guilty that they don't buy it off you because that's how passionate you are. And this is to the degree of what we are trying to do. So to me, this is the most important part, I've had to call Steve Hodges 1,000 times and we all know Steve, and he's like, mate, don't call me anymore, I'm going to block you, and why? Because, I want to make sure that I'm getting all the right information and everybody knows that Steve is the godfather when it comes to seafood. We all know that, nobody cooks a piece of fish like him, regardless, And the thing is that you get to learn all these things and you're talking about flavours and respect and understanding. That guy is a walking encyclopedia when it comes to the knowledge of seafood. And as you know, you did a cookbook with him, It doesn't always arrive on time. However, the beauty about it is that, once you get him into the zone and you can we talk for hours about seafood, and which is great. And it's a combination of everything, knowing about the protein, knowing about the flavour profile, knowing what works, what doesn't work, how to treat it, how to cook it, what to do with it. And again, staying true to the cause of the dish, whether it's you're doing a tomato, making sure that the flavour balance is always there, making sure that it doesn't overpower the fish. What's the hero of the dish? It's got to be the fish. So everything else just complements. And that's one of the hardest parts about, sometimes doing it. So you've just got to understand all those flavour profiles, which for me is paramount.
Well, Danny, it's super exciting news in such an iconic location. When are you looking to open?
We're looking at the back end of October, early November. But it's like everything else, we hope and pray that everything, comes into the country on time But look, the beauty about it is that we're actually in no rush, because I'm enjoying. I've got my own kitchen where we're doing all these dishes. We're having a lot of fun. My chef Michael doesn't arrive for a couple of more weeks. But the beauty about it is that we've been working with the pastry chef and the other chefs, and it's great. Just having a lot of fun doing all these dishes, and it's been we've kept it under wraps for some time. So now it just feels great that we've actually let everybody know, and it was just very exciting. Just needed to make sure that everything that we were doing, it was there for a good reason, and not just because we wanted to do it. And everything just fell into place, and it's just having someone like Con in your team. It's just for us it was just very natural, and we're just hoping that by the end of October, early November, it'll be open, and I just can't wait. I can't wait to get back into the kitchen full time again, and for the first time I won't have to hand over the baby. So as you know, whenever you do consulting, you always have to let go of the baby at some stage, and that's one of the hardest things, because you put a lot of blood, sweat and tears into a project, and a lot of the times it's your ideas, and we've had to I've done so many projects where I haven't been able to tell people the projects I've been working on. But this one here, I'm telling the world, because it's my project, and this is a baby that we're going to be looking after for quite some time to come.
Well, Danny, looking forward to seeing what emerges and what you deliver to Sydney in such a special location. It's been great having you on Deep in the Weeds today.
Thank you very much, Anthony. I appreciate it so much. And as you know, mate, I've always been a big fan of yours, and and it's great, mate. So I just can't wait. You'll have to come round.
I'm looking forward to it, mate. Keep in touch, and we'll catch up soon.
Thank you very much. Have a wonderful day.
This is the Deep in the Weeds podcast. I'm Anthony Huckstep. Stay tuned as we take a deep dive into the lives of the incredible people who ply their trade in the food and hospitality sector. Special thanks to executive producer Rob Locke for making this all happen. Follow us on Instagram at Deep in the Weeds Podcast, or email us at podcast@deepintheweeds.com.au. Stay safe and be well.